Hi everyone, this is Ms. Brubeck. Today we're going to be learning how to factor trinomials. And if you're like, well, what's a trinomial? A trinomial is an expression with three terms. So like, you know how a tricycle has three wheels? Well, a trinomial has three terms. So an example of a trinomial, this would be a trinomial because we have one term, two terms, and three terms. The x squared is a term, the 6x is a term, and the 8 is a term. And what is factoring? We talked about factoring last week. I asked you, what are the factors of 10? And you told me 5 and 2, because 5 times 2 multiplies to get you 10. I asked, what are the factors of 12? You told me 6 and 2, because 6 times 2 multiplies to get you 12. So factors are just things that you can multiply together to equal another number. When we're factoring expressions like this, we're looking for two expressions that we can multiply together to get our original x squared plus 6x plus 8. So, oops, sorry about that. The way we're going to do this is I'm going to make a diamond. And for some students, the diamond method works. For others, they're not a big fan. But I'll make a diamond, and then I'm going to go to the middle of each side and cross it like this. Okay, and I want to find two numbers that multiply to get me this 8. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to get 8 and two numbers that add. Let's make sure that looks like an addition sign. It needs to add to get a positive 6. So we want it to add to get 6. So we're looking for two numbers that when we multiply them, we get 8. And when we add them, we get 6. So let's first just figure out what are the numbers that multiply to get us 8. Well, I can think 1 and 8 multiplies to get 8. 2 and 4 multiplies to get 8. And that's all I can think of, just 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. So those both are factors of 8. Both of these multiply to get us 8. Now we need to figure out which one adds to get us 6. Well, if we do 1 plus 8, we're going to get 9. Oops, so that's not going to work. But if we could do 2 plus 4, that will add to be 6. And so that's the one we're going to use. We're going to use the 2 and the 4 because it adds to be 6. So we're going to write 2 here and 4 here. And then the way we write our final answer is we just make parentheses. We say x plus 2 and x plus 4. Now if you're like, Ms. Brubeck, how do I know that this is supposed to multiply to get this? Well, let me show you. If I do the box method, which is what we learned, which we've already learned how to do the box method. If I do the box method and I draw my line here and I draw my line here, and let's use my factors. My x plus 2 and then my x plus 4. And then let's multiply it. So in this box, x times x, we've got invisible 1s in front of both. So 1 times 1, that's going to be 1x squared. 1x times 2, that's going to just be 2x. 1x times 4, that's going to be 4x. And then plus 4 times 2, that's going to be 8. Then I can add my like terms, my 2 and my 4. And so the answer is going to be, you can write the 1 in front or you don't have to, 1x squared. 4 plus 2, that's going to be 6x. And then plus 8 at the bottom. Notice how this is exactly the same as that. So if you multiply these two together, you are going to get your original trinomial of x squared plus 6x plus 8. So these are the factors. These two expressions multiply to get us x squared plus 6x plus 8. Okay, let's try some more. So here now we have a positive 16 So we need to find two numbers that multiply to get a positive 16, but then they need to add, like a negative 10. They need to add to be a negative 10. So factors of 16. 4 and 4 multiply to get 16. 8 and 2 multiplies to get 16. And 1 and 16. All of those multiply to get 16. They're all factors. If we add, 4 plus 4 gets us 8. 8 plus 2 gets us 10. And 1 plus 16 gets us 17. These all multiply to get us a positive 16, but the problem is it needs to add to be a negative 10. And the closest we have is a positive 10. That's not going to work. It needs to add to be a negative 10. So what we can do here is we can make both of them negative, because a negative 4 and a negative 4, that's going to multiply to be a positive 16. We can make both of these negative. Negative 8 and negative 2. Those multiply to equal a positive 16. And negative 1 and negative 16, those multiply to equal a positive 16. And then we can add. Negative 4 plus negative 4 is going to be negative 8. Negative 8 plus negative 2 is going to be negative 10. And negative 1 plus negative 16 is going to be negative 17. We found our winner. Negative 8 and negative 2, they are going to add to be negative 10. So our answer is going to be negative 8 and negative 2. And when we write that, it's going to look like this. X minus 8 and x minus 2. Close those parentheses. And that's the final answer. Let's do the next one. So the next one, we need to find two numbers that multiply to equal a negative 12. Then we need to find two numbers that add to be a positive 1, because there's an invisible 1 in front of that x. So it needs to be add to be 1. So we need to find the factors of negative 12. Well, 3 and 4 multiplies to be 12, but those multiply to be a positive 12. We need it to be a negative 12. So in order for it to be a negative 12, one of the numbers has to be negative. So we could do negative 3 and 4. We also could do positive 3 and negative 4. Both of those multiply to be a negative 12. One of the numbers has to be negative. We could do 6 and 2, but one of the numbers is going to have to be negative. So we could do it with 6 negative, and then we could try one with the 2 as negative. And then also 1 and 12, but again, one of the numbers has to be negative. So we can make the 1 negative, and we can also make the 12 negative. So let's now add these, okay? So negative 3 and 4, well, that adds to be 1, okay? We can keep going. 3 and negative 4, that's going to be a negative 1. Negative 6 plus 2, that's going to be a negative 4. 6 plus negative 2 is going to be a positive 4. Negative 1 plus 12 is going to be 11. And negative 1 plus negative 12, or sorry, positive 1 plus negative 12 will be a negative 11. So our answer here will be this one, negative 3 and 4, because we want it to add to be a positive 1. So negative 3, positive 4. So the answer is x minus 3. But then make sure you have x plus 4, because the 4 is positive. That doesn't look so good. Like this. All right, let's try the next one. So now we have negative 18 and negative 7. So we need to find two numbers that multiply to equal a negative 18 and add to equal a negative 7. So two numbers that multiply to equal a negative 18 and add to be a negative 7. So factors of negative 18. Let's see, we could do 1 and 18, but again, the problem is it needs to be negative. 1 times 18 equals a positive 18. So one of the numbers is going to have to be negative. We could do a negative 1, and we could also then do a negative 18. 9 and 2, but again, one of the numbers has to be negative for it to multiply to be a negative number. So we can do negative 9, and then we can also try a negative 2. 6 and 3 multiplies to get 18, but again, one of the numbers has to be negative. So negative 3 and negative 6 and 3, and 6 and negative 3. Is that everything that equals 18? I think so. So then we can add negative 1 and 18. That's going to be a positive 17. And then 1 plus negative 18, that's going to be a negative 17. Well, that's not going to work because we're trying to find a number that that adds to be a negative 7. Then we have negative 9 and plus 2. Oh, I think that's our winner. That adds to be a negative 7. 9 plus negative 2 is a positive 7. And then negative 6 plus 3, that adds to be a negative 3. And 6 plus negative 3 adds to be a positive 3. So our winner is negative 9 and 2 because it adds to be a negative 7. Negative 9 and a positive 2. So our answer, I mean, you can always, if you want to, you can also type it out. Our answer is going to be x minus 9 because the 9 is negative, and then x plus 2 because the 2 is positive. And that's our answer. All right, let's try the next one. So slide 6, this one's a little bit different. This one is not equal to 0. So what you have to do to solve is we need to get this 6 on the same side. So we're going to subtract 6 like this. Okay, and what that's going to mean is then we're going to have x squared plus 5x minus 6, and it's going to equal 0. Okay, now this is the same idea, but it does say solve instead of factor, so I'm going to show you how solving is different than factoring. Okay, I'm going to show you how solving is different than factoring. We're still going to do the diamond method like we did before. So I'm still going to make my diamond. I need to find two numbers that multiply to equal a negative 6 and add to be a 5. So making my diamond. Need to find two numbers that multiply to be a negative 6 and add to be a positive 5. I'm going to make my t-chart again down here. And I need factors of 6. Make that a little smaller. And then we also need the sum. So factors of, not 6, negative 6. So we're going to, the numbers that multiply to equal 6, 1 and 6, and 2 and 3. But the problem is it needs to it needs to multiply to be a negative 6. So one of the numbers is going to have to be negative. So we can do negative 1 and 6, and we can also do positive 1 and negative 6. And then we can do negative 2 and a positive 3, and then a positive 2 and a negative 3, and see what they add to it. And we need it to add to a positive 5. Negative 1 plus 6, that's a positive 5. That's probably our winner. 1 plus negative 6, that's a negative 5. Negative 2 plus 3 is a positive 1, and 2 plus negative 3 is a negative 1. So here's our winner. 1 and 6, negative 1 and 6. So we're going to draw, I'm going to write out like here, we're going to have x minus 1 and then x plus 6. But here's the difference, is that now we're going to say it equals 0. So this is how you solve. This is how you solve an equation. And what we're going to do is you're going to make it have x minus 1 equals 0 and x plus 6 equals 0. And if you solve that, you're going to get x equals negative 1 and x equals